The first king of Portugal, Afonso I, was one of the most important warrior kings of the medieval period. But he wasn't alone as a warrior in his kingdom. Since the days of the county, he counted with the support of men experienced in warfare. Some of these were the knights Gonçalo Mendes de Sousa and Fernão Churrichão, as well as the Templar Gualdim Pais and the almost legendary Geraldo Sem Pavor. In this video, I'll focus on the last one of those, because of his fame and service in both Christian and Muslim lands. It is not known exactly when Geraldo was born, but most historians agree on the 1130s or 40s. The early years of his life are, in most part, involved in mystery, but it is thought he was captured and enslaved either by the Almoravids in a raid that almost reached Coimbra in 1144, or in the Almohad raid of 1155. Thus, he was stolen from his land and taken to Al-Andalus, where he waited all of his infancy for a rescue that never materialized. Eventually, he joined the Muslim army as a slave. He already understood Arabic, as it is naturally expected given the time he had spent in Muslim Iberia. In the military, he learned different tactics employed by the Moors, and more importantly, their strengths and weaknesses. By the early 1160s, his life took a radical turn, which saw him end up on the Christian north. It is not known if he managed to flee by himself or if he was rescued by the Portuguese in an organized raid to the south. It is speculated by historians that Geraldo was part of the campaign to conquer Beja of 1162, led by Fernão Gonçalves, given the nature of the conquest, that is, an assault at night. In the years that followed, Geraldo and the men led by him would conquer a great number of forts between Évora and Beja and around Badajoz. The conquest of Évora shocked the Almohads, for the Portuguese warrior had made his first conquest in Trujillo, hundreds of kilometers away from Évora, the second most important city in the province of Badajoz. Immediately after the conquests, Geraldo gave many forts to King Afonso I. Probably the donation happened for the warrior didn't have the means to keep them under his rule, and also, in this way, he developed a relationship with the monarch of his country, who, in turn, made him the commander of Évora. The nomination augmented his small private army of Portuguese and Andalusian men, giving him the service of a great number of knights belonging to the lower nobility. Some time after conquering Évora, Geraldo and his men would take hold of Cáceres, Montanches, Serpa, Jurumanha, Alconchel, Lobón, and many smaller castles near those territories. The distance between these places caused great confusion to the Almohads, who could never guess what the next target would be. In the later months of 1168, the knight advanced to the great city of Badajoz. For a long time, the Muslims were able to resist him, given that his army was only able to enter the Almedina in the month of May of 1169. Still, the Almohads kept themselves well supplied in the Alcáçova and constantly attacked the Portuguese. Due to this difficulty, Geraldo called for the help of the king, who himself assembled an army that he would command to aid the knight. Afonso finally entered the city, and the morale of Geraldo's men improved. Badajoz was thus very close to becoming part of Portugal. But miles away, to the north and south of the city, there was a large opposition to Geraldo's campaign, from both the Leonese and the Almohads. The first of those had made a treaty with the Castilians in 1158, where King Ferdinand II had agreed with his brother that the city was his to conquer. So, in June of 1169, Ferdinand, to the shock of everyone, entered the city and attacked the Portuguese from behind. Thus, the Lusitanians were encircled by the Leonese army and the Almohads. The Portuguese ended up retreating. As for Geraldo, he was captured by the Leonese and forced to give back the castles of Montanches, Santa Cruz, Trujillo and Monfrag to the Almohads. But the warrior wanted revenge. So, not long after the defeat, he attacked the city again, this time winning a huge victory over the Almohad garrison who tried to intercept him, of whom he managed to capture many and receive high ransoms. Furthermore, he tried to starve the city by organizing devastating raids to nearby territories. He achieved success in this, which forced the Almohads to send, from Seville, lots of cereals and reinforcements. But the Almohad reinforcements were too many for Geraldo to keep the pressure on Badajoz. Furthermore, the Moors conquered his forts of Lobón and Jurumanha. Thus, the Portuguese looked at the abandoned city of Beja as the next target. So, in August of 1172, Geraldo conquered it in an assault, maybe with the assistance of Prince Sancho. But unfortunately for the mercenary, the king had ordered his son to be sure that the Portuguese would destroy the walls and then retreat from the city. Geraldo would then be disappointed again with the crown when King Afonso decided to make truce with the Almohads from 1173 to 1178. The services of the mercenary, who would no longer be required by the King of Portugal. In 1173, Geraldo, understanding that he was not going to be supported by Afonso, left his castles in the Iberian Peninsula and made his way, with 350 men, to Seville, where all of them put themselves at the service of the Almohad Caliph, Abu Yaqub Yusuf. The Muslim leader accepted their services, and a year later, Geraldo had his revenge on the Leonese by participating in the conquest of Alcántara. 3 years later, the Caliph departed from Seville and made his way to Marrakech with Geraldo. The base of operations of the Portuguese mercenaries became Taroudant, located east of Agadir. There, Geraldo commanded punitive raids against North African rebels who seek to depose the Caliph. Anyway, Geraldo was displeased with his life because of his desire to make his own conquests in preference at the service of the Portuguese king. So, in 1176, he sent a letter to Afonso suggesting an attack alongside the rebel Berbers to Agadir. The crown never responded, since it most likely was focused on exerting the truce until the agreed year of 1178. Either way, the letter was intercepted by the Caliph, who ordered Geraldo to move to Sigilmassa. There, he was detained by the governor, who ended up supposedly decapitating him. The fear among the Almohads that the mercenary returned to Portugal and helped the Portuguese reconquer many territories was big. Thus his life ended like that of many warriors, who lived risking everything for military conquests. The price for his boldness was his death. But his courage and effectiveness immortalized him in the history of the Reconquest, and showed the Portuguese, as well as the other Christians of Hispania, that it was possible to face powerful Islamic empires hundreds of kilometers deep into their territory and win.